silent movie sort of experience. Very good, very good, very good! Oh, wait, no.
Sorry, I'm a little clumsy.
So, Mojo has finally joined us.
Sorry about that, I had to promote last minute because I'm a jackass.
Yes, and you didn't bring anybody.
Well, it's hard to go, it's hard, I got this guy.
He brought one! Yes!
Well, his kids went to the Power Rangers one. And the next door is X-Men 20th anniversary, so yeah, we're fucked. Not as bad as last year, though. Last year, our competition was Metalocalypse, Zorak, because you know the guy passed away, that memorial, and what was the other one?
Adam West.
Adam West.
And Adam West. Yeah, talk about stiff fucking competition. So yeah, this is all strung together. I suck, whatever. We got some cool badass motherfuckers. We got Black Brain, we got DJ Will, we got Carl.
Mojo, we've been over already for that.
Oh, sorry. I was being a slut. Leave me alone.
Okay. So, start us with our first topic, bro.
What?
Our first topic.
What is our first topic?
You're going to tell us what our first topic is.
Our first topic is, what is the difference between selling out and buying in?
Well, no. We're already through that, too.
Dude, I was busy promoting, man. What?
I'm sorry you're late. All right, so.
You're the host. I'm just
New Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. New Ghostbusters. Opinions? Okay. Will?
I would say with the new Ghostbusters, when you take a franchise, when you take anything that a studio owns and has owned for a number of years, and there hasn't been a sequel in some time, often the idea is to reimagine this franchise in some capacity, to bring it to a newer audience. It's been, as I said earlier, it's been hit or miss with a lot of these reboots, but...
Dredd was good. I like Dredd.
As far as the Judge Dredd movie?
No, yeah, I like Dredd better than Judge Dredd.
Not Judge Dredd. That's what Stallone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, when it comes to reboots, the only time they ever did a reboot right, in my opinion, would be Dredd, because Judge Dredd just sucked balls, but yeah.
Alright, well, focusing on Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Ghostbusters.
Been a long weekend.
The female cast was panned the minute it was announced who was going to take place in the film. So even before it made it to the theaters, it was already against. It was already going to be hit with a lot of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the studio's way to say, let's try something different with this franchise that we own, and let's see what works in the long run. So, you know, I thought it was okay. I didn't really, it wasn't
You thought it was okay?
I didn't mind the female cast. But to answer your question, as far as Ghostbusters is concerned, I would prefer the original movie.
Well, the way my vote will compromise with that new Ghostbusters, other than it's a cash grab and just trying to, like, you know, jump on a whole, like, bandwagon of political bullshit, is that if you wanted to be really politically correct on this one, don't make it all female, make it like a mix of everything.
Oh no, your biggest problem is that everyone's trying to be Peter Venkman.
Yeah, that's the other problem I have with it too. It's like, the thing about the original Ghostbusters, everyone had their role. You had Peter, who was the asshole. You had Egon, the brains. You had Raymond, the heart. And you had the average man, Joe, Winston, right? And then this one.
Basically. Captain Planet, basically.
What did you say?
Captain Planet.
Basically, yeah. But everybody had the role. They had their. They all mixed together in a chemistry way. And this one, you have four women fighting over being Peter Venkman.
Yeah, he belongs.
And it's like all of them are the funny one. When it just comes out as just messy, sloppy, and crappy. So yeah. What are your thoughts, Carl?
Well, first of all, I wanted to ask, how do you define the selling out or buying in first?
Of the movie? Or in general?
Sell out is to go against everything that you're for and to like compromise yourself. Buying in is when you're profiting on what you do.
Like in music, Jade Addiction, buying in. Selling out would be like everything that came out after 2000, basically. like every emo band.
Well,
Every,
90s kind of like, actually 80s is defined by selling out, because everyone kind of sold out in the 80s.
and then in the 90s they try to like not sell out even though they sold out. It gets confusing after a while, but
But I like the original way that you described it when we were talking. There's a nostalgia is that it hits on the emotional chords of the era without necessarily trying to redo the source. You know, like I think, for example, like Stranger Things did a great job bringing all the nostalgia, all the emotional chords that like you remember of that era, but a new story, a new like paradigm, a new everything, where you still saw the references. You're like, oh, that's Alien, oh, that's E.T., oh, that's, you know, like, you saw all the references, but it was always referential, and it wasn't ever, you know, like a knockoff.
And what do you think about what J.J. Abrams said during his TED Talk, where he's, don't rip off the wrong thing. It's like, rip off the cool stuff if you're going to do a remake.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Is that something you agree with, or?
Like I would, yeah.
I have no brain right now.
What about this idea of shoehorning in the original characters, the original cast from the old movies, and then they make a sort of
All right, so let's
Does
take
that
it
work,
to,
or examples of that?
well, let's take it to Orville versus Discovery, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Orville is very
Oh,
next
gosh.
generation, like it is very generation.
It's
It's
so
so
TNG.
generation, it's not even a parody at this point. It's just an extension of Star Trek.
With some
And
jokes.
Discovery
no
is
yeah.
Star Wars. Like
Yeah.
it's during war and it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars.
And it's awesome. Like I personally, I'm on Discovery side.
Yeah, I would
Nerds.
agree with that.
Nerds are on Orville side.
What is that? Now, who are the nerds, and how do you describe that?
Trekkies.
Yeah, people that don't like new Star Trek.
For example, right? A good example, right? Like, you know, okay, before Star Trek Beyond came out, they had a listing of the top of all the movies in order. What is the best? What is the worst? You know who's ranked the worst? Into Darkness. It ranked under, like literally, Galaxy Quest ranked higher. A parody of Star Trek, Galaxy Quest, ranked higher than Into Darkness. That's how much they hated the reboots.
Wow, but is that something you agree with, or no?
Well,
No.
for me, I personally like the Abrams Star Treks because it does the one thing that Star Trek never had, you know, balls. But
Wait a minute, you. Wrath of Khan.
yeah, it is Wrath of Khan's greatest. What I'm saying is, I like the reboots in general because it gave it balls. Like I like Star Trek in '09, right? Into Darkness was forgettable, and it was exactly what you Trekkies would call it, Wrath of Khan's greatest hits. If I'm not mistaken, that's what you Trekkies call it. Like I said, I go way back in the Trekkies. I mean, my first time I went to, I used to go to the ones in Pasadena for fuck's sakes, and they were cool. I liked them. Except if you ever want to piss off some Trekkies at a Star Trek con, who wear two things: either a Star Wars shirt, or the sake of me, because I'm a '90s kid, a Babylon 5 shirt. Well, if you want to say fuck you to Trekkies, you wear a fucking Babylon 5 shirt. Especially when it comes to Deep Space Nine. Oh yeah, and fuck Deep Space Nine. Fuck Deep Space Nine. This is why I say fuck Deep Space Nine. Because it suffers from all the shitty shows I see on the CW, like all the superhero shows, which is, shit's about to go down, but we interrupt this with love story. You know what I mean? It's like, we're about to go to war with a fucking Dominion, right? But let's have 4 episodes about Worf's wedding. What the fuck, right? And that's how I see the CW shows. It's like, shit's about to go down, we have Reverse Flash, we have basically Flashpoint, which basically started the new 52, and then we're gonna focus on some stupid love story. Fuck that shit. The only show on the CW I like, and you can laugh at me and call me a bitch all you want, I love Riverdale.
You're a bitch.
I love Riverdale. And I love Riverdale because it so fucks with your head. This is why. Because you're watching Riverdale and you're going like, okay, this is...
Michael.
What?
Stand, like, lean back a little bit while you're talking.
What?
You're overmodulating.
What?
You're overmodulating.
Oh yeah, I suck. Alright, back to Riverdale, okay? I like Riverdale because you're expected to be like Dawson's Creek, but within 5 minutes it turns into fucking Twin Peaks. Come on, the finale turned into Game of fucking Thrones. And it's the fucking Archies. Yeah, the fucking Archies turned into fucking Game of Thrones. I mean, and also since I'm a big nostalgia buff myself, hence this fucking panel here. You have old teen idols as the parents. You got Luke Perry and Molly Ringwald as Archie's parents. And you know who plays Jughead's dad? Skeet fucking Ulrich. How fucking awesome is that? Yes, I'm vulgar, that's how I fucking roll. What? Alright. What do you guys think? Not Riverdale, just say something.
Yeah, Riverdale sucks.
His ideas off of here. I see these. I'm peeking at his notes and I'm liking what I'm.
Oh, Riverdale?
Don't cheat, brother. We're not cheating over here. We can't cheat.
Yeah, you can.
The Cliff Notes version.
There's no notes, I'm just an idiot. But yeah, I we'll say, like Riverdale's a good example of how to do things right. I mean, I have a term called Riverdale, where you take something funny and you make it tragic. Like, for example, like if you've ever read the Archie comics, one of the running gags is that, you know, fucking Jughead is like always hungry and wears the same clothes. On Riverdale, it tells you why. Because he's homeless and lives at the school. Like I said, you take something funny and you make it tragic. That's awesome. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's just a new twist. It's the only good show on the CW because fuck the CW. I'm an asshole. Questions, anyone?
I have a question.
What?
As far as if we can refocus to reboots,
Yeah.
movies that have come out that have been bastardized over the years. I'm going to start with, since we're the eve of Halloween, I'm going to start with some horror films that have recently been done, some of which have been very successful, and just like to get everyone's thoughts and opinions on it. First off, Halloween.
Which ones?
I'm talking about the reboots.
Oh.
From John Carpenter's Halloween to Rob Zombie's Imagining. And then the second would be The Fog, and then The Mummy.
Which mummy?
Ooh, the Mummy.
The one that just came out.
Oh,
Tom
the
Cruise.
I'm talking about those three films have all been rebooted.
Okay.
The Mummy is painful.
No, which one are we talking about? You talking about the Brendan Fraser one or the Tom Cruise one?
Brendan Fraser was good.
Either
Tom
or.
Cruise is
Either or.
painful.
Wow.
Like,
If you take the original
What?
to the movies that have been rebooted, the successful franchises are dictated with new directors, a different story, and a slight angle, which may or may not agree with the source material. And if you're a purist with these original films, you take issue with it. Some do, some don't. So my question is to everyone at the panel, if you take the Halloween, The Fog, and The Mummy just to start, your thoughts of the original, and of course, your thoughts on the reboot.
Well, if you're okay, I've never seen The Fog, so I'm out of that one. For The Mummy, the old, if we're talking about the original, like, Boris Karloff one, I'm out.
you've seen it?
A long time ago when I was a little kid, so I have like a small,
I feel like an asshole. I've never seen the original Mummy.
Dude, we're youngins, dude, leave me alone. I just love here.
Sorry, I haven't seen the
Very
source.
slow.
Yeah,
But
yeah, very slow. Hey, homie's here. Thank you. But yeah, like I was saying, like the original Mummy, I have, you know, vague memories of it. I was a little kid at the time. We're talking about the Brendan Fraser one. I liked it, but I'm lame. You know, did anybody watch the Nostalgia Critic yet of the Brendan Fraser Mummy yet? Oh, they basically just watch that episode and you'll see what my opinions on that one. I agree with everything they say on that one. The Tom Cruise one, the fact that they're trying to start a universe with monsters,
Oh, it's bad.
that is what we call a cash grab. You know what I mean?
That's the definition of what we're against.
Right, but if they're calling it a
Rita!
cash grab, is it going to work as a cash grab? Did it work?
No,
So
it
it's not
didn't.
even a cash grab.
It was so obviously trying to be a cash grab, that's why it lost money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when it just suffered. Power Rangers crew is here. Thank you, everybody.
I think with a reboot like The Mummy, and specifically speaking of the Tom Cruise version, I always ask the question when I see something like that happen is technology, especially within the film industry, continues to advance so rapidly, but there are all these tools, and every studio uses the tool differently. You know, an animated special effect coming from DreamWorks Studios, that's a whole different team of people than animated special effects coming from Warner Brothers or Sony or Artisan Films or something like that. So all the tools, the special effect tools continue to evolve and change. I always wondered with a film like The Mummy, with somebody like Tom Cruise, where how much of this is going to be driven by special effects, and therefore it becomes a vehicle to enter into the market to try to grab that audience who really loves super hip, cool special effects, and because the trailers, that's what they reveal. They don't reveal aspects of the narrative. What is this movie about? They give you maybe just a taste of that, but what they're showing, what they want you to see to try to get you into the movie theater seat is the special effects. And when we're talking about reboots, that's one of the very first things I think about is where does the funding from the film come from? What is the demographic that they are targeting? Because it must be a profit-driven vehicle in order for a studio to even put it out. They know and can anticipate that certain amounts of money are going to come from it. The curious part for me as a creator is what really drives the people into those seats. And with something like The Mummy, how much of it is special effects? Tom Cruise, really does he have that much pull at the box office anymore? He did at one point. If he appeared in a film, people went to see that film because he was a powerful actor and they wanted to see what he did with it. At this point in his career, is he that same box office draw?
Nope.
I mean, no.
Some other guys here, on those hands, like
that. Last one he did was American Made, and I saw that. We don't have to download it anymore. We have Cody. So I watched it, and it was okay. But like he tried to do like this Southern accent, which
very distracting.
That's just that role in that one. That's that one role in that one film. He had a nice streak. Last couple of years, some hit or miss, but for the most part, I still say he's
I mean, Tropic Thunder, his role in that, he's incredible.
Best ever.
He's incredible in that.
He was playing Weinstein. He was playing Weinstein minus the rape.
Well, the rape was implied.
Moving on.
Well, I think it's funny is all the thing about Weinstein is like, well, he's been raping movies for so long. Why is he shocked about anything else he's doing? Okay.
One thing I'd like to add that was really interesting that I had notes was with the special effects, it seems like there's just this huge escalation of trying to outdo something. And I think the ones that do it, that actually do a good reboot or good whatever, is actually character focus versus effects focus. Like one that we were just talking about that was really interesting was like Spider-Man. That was really cool, and it was like the director actually worked with the teenagers to make sure like the language and everything was appropriate to the demographic. If you look at the movie as a whole for like a Spider-Man movie, the effects was like minimal, but it still slayed,
Which Spider-Man are we talking about?
Like
the
little kid,
right? The Electric Company version.
Oh, by the way, that was actually Sam Jackson's first gig before he got big. Yeah.
Electric Company.
Yeah. Like I was watching I watch a lot of stupid crap, whatever, but they talk about
Morgan Freeman was on the show too.
Oh yeah, Morgan Freeman, yeah, thank you on that one. I got mixed up here, dude. I watched a thing about like actors who like started off late in life and like they showed both Morgan Freeman and they showed Sam Jackson. But yeah, you're right. It was Morgan Freeman. Damn, I'm stupid. Thank you.
Spider-Man Homecoming was a joint venture between Marvel and Sony since Sony had the property.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was a little too much Iron Man, Tony Stark involved in the trailers, in the film. There's a lot of tech involved, which, okay, I get it, I understand it, but it was a little like, pump your brakes a little bit, but at the same time, the movie worked, and for what they were going for, absolutely. I mean, with anything that's going to be put out there, is it going to be a CGI fest, or are we going to have an actual story? Are we going to have a director that enjoys the source material? Are we going to get nods to the characters and sights and sounds from the original films? That's always subject to that's always open-ended. But with Homecoming, it was great. It was a lot of humor involved, and definitely aimed at kids. And yes, aimed at making lots and lots of toys. So.
All I know is thank you for being so smarter than me, man.
So
I think
come with an agenda.
one other thing with Homecoming that I really appreciated was that because we have had so many Spider-Man movies in the canon thus far, is they didn't bother to go back and retell the origin.
Oh, thank you.
That was,
It wasn't
it was
an
really
origin story,
respectful
even
to
though
the
it's
audience.
technically a new origin
Yeah.
story.
It's really respectful to the audience because they are respecting our intelligence. And they're not trying to force feed us something and make us shell out those dollars to get in that seat. We got more movie with more story. I respected it.
Yeah.
It showed that they cared enough about us because we're the people that they're selling that movie to. So I respected that.
That's a great point.
All right, so on topic still. All right, Thor, the new Thor. It looks like they kind of Guardianed it. Like, it looks very like a Guardians.
In terms of the color.
The way they promoted it, because
But yeah, they
promotion's
use
a
the
big way.
retro
It's
music
like,
and the
all right,
trailer.
let's take it back to
It's
Suicide
supposed
Squad.
to be funny from what I
Yeah, yeah.
understand. All the like Rotten Tomatoes and other reviewers, they say
Well,
that
first off, fuck Rotten
it's very
Tomatoes.
funny.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is skewed. It has.
It's very biased, actually.
It's an aggregate site.
What is it biased in what way?
Ooh. I sound like an asshole saying this though, but like, for example, you notice how Ghostbusters had a higher rating than Suicide Squad last year? You know why? Because if you see the people run it, it's a bunch of, how do I say this without sound like an asshole here?
Oh no, you're allowed to sound like an asshole.
They're a bunch of SJW bulldogs. Have you? No, I don't mean this in a fucking racist way. I don't know the proper term to call it. It's run by a bunch of people who are biased by it. So if you just play on that thing, for example, why does Broad City have a higher rating than South Park? Because if you see who the head tomato is, Grady, right? She's like okay. It reminds me of, remember on Drawn Together, right? And they had the first bad review. And the person who's behind Entertainment Weekly is everything they make fun of. That is Rotten Tomatoes. It is, basically, it's like, the reason why they like Ghostbusters better than Suicide Squad is because it appealed to them more. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those, it's biased. It's more biased. You know what I mean? It's not like they have a group of people who are a big collection of different people. It's all the same person, all the same people following one person, basically a dictatorship, if you will. So that is why I don't respect Rotten Tomatoes. Because it's not like you have a big plethora of a group of people. You just have one group of people following orders to one dictator. So it's biased. That's why I say fuck Rotten Tomatoes. You know what I mean? It's not like you have Siskel, Ebert, and Gray Drake. You have Gray Drake and her clones. It's like having a video game site run by Anita Sarkeesian. You know what I mean? Like, you're being biased. The way I look at it is, have a scheme, have different opinions. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things I like to do in my mag is I want to get a left-wing article and a right-wing article and have them debate. Because I want to prove equal. And that's
Let them fight.
Let them fight. Yeah. And that's why I don't like Rotten Tomatoes. I have no respect for it because they're biased. Sorry to repeat myself, but yeah. Fuck Rotten Tomatoes. That and also they went against us on our first panel, so yeah. Well, yeah. Same reason. I'm a dick. All right. Anything else, guys?
Well, no, we have lots of else. But
All right.
just because you're done with your rant doesn't mean we're done with panel.
I'm not saying we're done. I'm an idiot.
You know, one of the things that these guys approached me yesterday in Artist Alley, and I think it was kind of the same with you guys. We got recruited really quick, and so it's sort of, you know, a 12-hour crash course in preparation to, you know, get up with your colleagues and peers who we've never met before, but have something intelligent to say. So the topic of nostalgia, buying in versus selling out, I mean, that's the thing that I was sort of thinking about during the night.
That's what it is.
You know, just to pose a question to the rest of the panel members, and I'll share something about the work that I do and ask you guys what your association with nostalgia specifically and how that feeds into your process now. Those of you who are creators or what I do is, as an artist, I've always been very object-oriented. And I go back into my childhood, the objects that I interacted with. I still have my toys when I was a kid. I have all my Star Wars and He-Man and Transformers figures. And they're cherished items. Some of them actually are worth money because I took good care of them. I kept the weapons for Han Solo different from the weapons of Chewbacca, et cetera, et cetera. So I have things delineated in that regard. But it was more the respect for what those objects did for me and my ongoing experience. Now as a
meaning of them.
Exactly, exactly. And it's a personal meaning, and it may be different from somebody else. But now, as a creator, at this stage in my life, I have a great deal of respect for the object and the types of emotional associations that come into the handling of it. And a comic book is a really great example of that. When you hold a comic book, you're holding the girth of this book. You smell the ink, you feel the paper, and this is a visceral experience of what the content in that book is actually going to be about, and your personal enjoyment of that. And that's something that I always wanted to recreate, was that experience, which was so powerful for me, and not just in comic books, but in other types of media, such as music. And my career path has taken me in that way. I sought and set out to create objects that had meaning and power within them as well, as a way to communicate and share with an audience. That's what I thought of when they asked me, here's our topic, nostalgia, the buy-in versus the sellout. Well, here I am buying into this concept where I am imbibing the object itself with power. And I do that through a self-funded, self-published comic book and album series that I do with my name. And it's absolutely a labor of love. It's fantastic. I love what I do. I have the best job in the world. It's awesome, and I don't ask for anything more except to continue the ability to share with people. There is my buy-in. My sellout. I'm not sure if there's a sellout anywhere on the roster, except I do have professional practices as a musician where I am asked to play often styles of music that either I'm unfamiliar with or is jobs that I take because the income is part and parcel with the broader artistic experience. I never look down on the project or a gig that I'm going to do. It's always, as a musician, you have to respect what it is that you do. As a creator, you respect what it is that you do, no matter what the context is. Otherwise, it walks away from you. And there is a larger power that emanates around that creative process. If you're not respecting it, it tends to leave you.
You got any free water?
And so you need to be addressing.
Any free unopened water?
On a free, unopened water, I have free, half-opened water. Anyway, so I know this is sort of something of a long-winded explanation of my associations with the theme, but I'd love to hear from the other panelists, what your initial association with that theme is, because that's why we're here at the table together to talk about that, and I just want to have a chance to share.
You should have been hosting.
I got one for you. I have a background in toy design.
Nice.
And I've worked for Hasbro, worked on the Transformers line, a few other ones, GoBots, and some other things. And what's really interesting, from like your take on the question or the parameter, was very personal. That's awesome, because I wouldn't even say like that you taking gigs would be a cash grab. That's you using your craft.
Thank you. Yeah.
If I can pose like a more macro look, is let's go back to Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
Right. So Tim Burton's Batman. This was like late '80s. Cartoons were definitely 30-minute commercials to sell toys. But this was the first time that a film was made, and because it's a film and they didn't do a lot of merchandise, they just had a shirt, one toy, maybe a cup here and there, but they sold millions of them because that was the only thing that there was. So come Batman, the second one, Batman Returns, I believe. Like the big heads took note, and they're like, oh, we can partner up with McDonald's. We could partner up with Hasbro to do like 50 toys. We could partner. They did all this stuff, right? And so what happened is that all the parents were like, because Batman was never meant for kids. Like that boy's dark. That it had a lot of that mysticism that it's kid friendly, but it wasn't meant for
the TV series though.
For sure. The TV series. I'm talking about the movie itself. Batman. I'm talking about like Tim Burton's Batman. Like everything else aside.
Let's bring it back to the toys too, because
well, I'm gonna go there real quick.
He's giving the history.
So Batman happens, and so Batman returns. We have the Penguin, who is like a hideous creature. We have like Catwoman being like slayed 8 times. You know? So all these parents took their kids that were like just terrified afterwards. You know, they're like suing McDonald's because they thought that this was a kid-friendly thing. Like, it just became a huge thing. So he wasn't invited for the third one because they wanted to make sure that the toys and the franchise, the merchandise was kid-friendly, that the story, you know, matched the product. So long with the story, all to say is like that's where they could have just did a beautiful film, and again, just had product that was appropriate to what the final content was, versus back like bringing the toys and the SKUs, and hey, we have to have 50 toys, 50 SKUs, so we have to have change outfits, we have to have 3 different kinds of vehicles, all these different things that are skewing the plot line, the story, and the art of, you know, of what the film could be. You know, so like you're putting all these the parameters on something that could have been a much simpler, more beautiful story, because you have to, you know, fit in all these different merchandise.
How much of that do you think is the nature of the beast with Batman being the property he is by DC Comics? Can we ever create a Batman movie that does not have that prolific of a product line, aside from Tim Burton's original Batman, which, as you said, had 1 toy, 1 shirt, 1 cup, but even with